Hey, everybody, welcome to the Wednesday edition of Winners and Winers Radio. It is Hump Day, and I am your host, as always, Scott Steen, lead handicapper at winnersandwiners.com. Bringing in my partner, my co host. He is the senior handicapper at Winners and Winers, and he is Scott Reichel. Scotty, what's up?
Nothing much. Had a pretty good day yesterday. Pretty fun watching the first game of the NBA Finals. Wasn't really that close, but I had fun watching it anyway. Other than that, though, pretty quiet day in sports. I know you had baseball on throughout the night. Used to 1 or 2 day games, which we did not get yesterday, but we had some golf, kinda, which turned into a bit of a blowout as well. So I thought yesterday's sports were okay, but really nothing that eventful. You?
It was not a very eventful day for me. We got a couple wins, picked up a couple baseball wins, so that was nice. But, I want to give a special shout out to all the folks there in Tampa, the home of our flagship station, WWPR. I know they had a little bit of a blow there yesterday with the hurricane/tropical storm. It looks like it didn't quite come ashore as much as they thought it was. So, Scott, it's got Long Island squarely in its sights as it moves up the coast. You should be catching that sometime. It's like maybe Thursday, Wednesday night, something like that.
I'll try to sleep through it.
Okay. All right, buddy. Of course, I think by the time it gets to you, it's going to be like, 35-mile-an-hour winds and 3 inches of rain. So it's going to be a bad summer storm, basically.
Yep. I'll remember that when I'm indoors.
Fair enough. You'll ride the storm out like REO Speedwagon, won't you?
We might lose power a little bit, but at the end of the day, we'll do our best to just get through it.
We do what we can. It could be just the Scott show instead of Scott and Scott. We'll see how that ends up. But of course, you are listening to Winners and Winers Radio, and all we ask is give us an hour, and we'll give you the winners. That's kind of our trade-off. And Winners and Winers Radio, it's surprisingly, I know, but Scott, it is brought to you by winnersandwiners.com. Winnersandwiners.com is the #1 site in the world for predictive sports analysis. Each day, people from over 150 countries stop by to check out the latest information as far as odds, changes, injuries, and weather updates. All very important information as you get ready to make your final decision on what plays to play. So make sure you stop by and check out winnersandwiners.com. Full previews and predictions into every game, every single day. And every single day, Scott, the price is the same. What is it?
It is absolutely free.
Absolutely free. That is what it is. So check out winnersandwiners.com. So, Scott, we will start the show as we always do. We have a lot to get to, of course, as we always do. But we are going to start with some of the people that weren't quite as fortunate as others today, Scott. They thought they had a winner. They thought they'd made a good play. They did their homework, did their handicapping, maybe even checked out Winners and Winers. You don't know. Made a good play, solid play, and it was working out really well until it didn't, Scott. And you know that feeling where you just are so frustrated. All you want to do is just somebody call the cops. All right, Scott, let's start it off, shall we? This is going to be from we'll start off with basketball. How about that, Scott? You had the Bucks and the Suns first half over 108. You needed 11 points in the final 4 minutes for a push. That didn't sound like that. Didn't sound like a lot, but it sounded like too many in this one as they put up just 9 points, Scott. Just 9 points in 3 minutes and 58 seconds to be exact. That is not good. 0 points included in that total in the final 60 seconds. So well done, boys. Well done indeed. It landed 106. That ain't enough. And if you had the over 108 in the first half of the Bucks-Suns game, you can call the cops.
And the second one was in baseball. If you had the Reds on the money line, you were laying a decent amount of juice against Kansas City, but it looked like it was worth it because the Reds were up 6-1 after 7 innings. Royals then scored 2 runs in the 8th. No big deal. Still up 3 runs going into the 9th. And then you remembered, wait a second, Cincinnati's bullpen, not very good. And Kansas City scored 4 runs in the 9th inning to walk it off. So if you had the Reds on the money line, you were up 5, then suddenly you were down 1, and the Royals walked it off. That's probably the worst beat of the night, don't you think?
I agree. I feel like they did that just to make me look bad because you and I talked about it yesterday. I said the Cincinnati pen had been better. They were much better on the road than they were at home. And of course, they come out and absolutely poop the bed is what they did, Scott, is giving up 6 runs in the last 2 innings. Not good. Not good at all. And we'll finish it up with the Blue Jays and the Orioles. You had under 11. You were looking good. Just 3 runs through the first 4 innings. Got a little sweatier towards the end of the game, Scott. You had 10 runs going into the top of the 9th. You just need a little help from the gambling gods. Not today, over fans or under fans, rather. The gambling gods, they thumb their nose at you. Blue Jays put up 2 runs in the 9th inning. Game ends 7-5. Game over, player one. That under 11 is no bueno. Time for you to call the cops.
And once again, it was also a worse beat because the Orioles were the home team. And since they were winning, they were not going to bat in the bottom of the 9th. So you just needed 3 more outs with no runs or even 1 run for a push. And instead, not quite. They scored 2 on you.
Yep, not good at all. Now, Scott, we have the bad news, but we do like to spread a little good news as well. And these are the games that went exactly the way you planned them. One of those games, you know the feeling, Scott, where you write out, maybe you do a prediction, maybe we talk about it on the radio, and the game goes exactly like you thought it would. Those are the nice, easy winners. Those are the ones that make you want to just quit your day job and become a sports handicapper. Oh, it's a glorious life, isn't it, Scott?
Definitely true.
Those are the easy wins. Those had you sitting in the rocking chair.
So the first one was between the Phillies and the Cubs, and if you had the over 10, you probably knew the wind was going to be blowing out, and when that happens, you see football-type scores, because you had 4 runs in the first inning, 3 runs in the second inning, 3 runs in the third inning, 2 runs in the fourth inning. I'm sensing a bit of a pattern here, and then the game ended up ending at 15-10. So if you had the over 10, you cashed that less than halfway through, and, well, it went about 2.5 times what the total should have been.
It was a great play if you had the over in that game. The wind cranking out to center field in Wrigley. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Yeah, the Tigers Rangers over 9. That one went well too. They had scored 5 runs in the 4th inning, 6 runs in the 7th inning. That game all ended up 10-5, practically a defensive-minded affair compared to the earlier game, but still 15 runs, well above your total of 9. And if you had the over 9 in the Rangers and the Tigers game, you are in good shape right there. You had a rocking chair win.
And the last one was kind of the opposite of the first 2 we talked about. We're going to be looking at an under, and if you had the Pirates and Braves under 9, it was very, very easy. 2 combined runs through the first 8 innings. However, it was 1-1, so you're trying to do whatever you can to avoid some dreaded extra innings, and you managed to do so. Pirates loaded the bases in the bottom of the 9th and did not tease you. Instead, they ended up scoring the walk-off run. So the game ended 2-1, and 3 runs, according to my math, is a lot lower than 9. Nice, easy winner there with the under.
Could have also picked the Marlins-Dodgers 2-1 extra inning affair. That one ended well under the total as well. And Scott, you're bleeding over into me. We always talked about the next day Reichel pick where it's a guaranteed win after the day that you pick it and lose. And that happened to me with the Dodgers-Marlins under as they blew up 2 good pitchers yesterday. And then, of course, 2-1 today. Congratulations, guys, with David Hess on the mound for the Marlins.
Well, at the end, you're supposed to have Lopez starting that game, right?
What's that?
Lopez started that game, correct?
In this one?
I thought he did.
David Hess got the start.
Oh, really? I know I actually didn't even realize that. I know Lopez was supposed to start yesterday.
It was undecided when this morning when I looked at it.
Okay, never mind. I guess he had some starter changes. But either way, with David Hess on the mound, you'd assume that yesterday's score probably should happen today.
Yeah. Going over. So. Yeah. All right, Scott. Well, that was hopefully, as always, we hope that you have more rocking chairs than you do cop collars. That's all we hope for you guys.
Amen.
The way that it works. Amen. Oh, Scott, I guess we have to talk about it. You know, it happened not too long ago. It happened, last week? Sha'Carri Richardson, sprinter, won the 100 meters, tested her for weed, tested positive for weed. She's been, of course, left off the U.S. relay team. Scott, where's the blame here? Is it, can you put the blame with Richardson? knowing it was against the rule, who decided to partake anyway in a state. I might mention that it's completely legal for recreational use up there in Oregon, but that's beside the point, because there's a lot of employers in states where marijuana is legal that still require you not to smoke weed, whether it's legal or not. So where do we have the blame? Is it a split blame? Is it a 70-30 situation? Is it the IOC for having the pretty much, I think we could call it old-fashioned rules at this point, about the devil's lettuce? Who are we getting mad at here, Scott?
I do think it's a breakdown. If I had to break it down percentage-wise, I think 70-30 does sound right. However, I kind of have a stance that's differing from the general public. I blame Richardson more.
Okay.
And the main reason why is that even if you personally think that weed should be legal and there's a non-performance enhancing drug and that the IOC should change or update the rules, I'm not going to argue with you. I think they should change the rules. However, based on how the rules are currently written, if you are trying out for a spot to participate in the Olympics, which you've been training for several years, shouldn't you read the rule book? Shouldn't you know what you're allowed to take and what you're not allowed to take?
Well, and of course, the story that she had used it to get over the death of a close relative, Scott. I can't remember.
Pretty sure it was a parent, I think.
Was it her mom? Maybe.
I think I might have been. Either way, I'm pretty sure it was her parent.
So she, again,
it's a very, very sensitive topic when you find out some of the backstory there. But I think you'd agree with me that if you were applying for a job and the job said specifically in the guidelines, don't smoke weed, and then you end up smoking weed, am I really supposed to just blame the federation or the organization for you not following the rules? I know that the rules might themselves be stupid,
right?
Or at least, old-fashioned, should be updated, and I agree with that. But you have to know the rules if you're spending so much time trying to qualify for this thing.
If you have outrage about Sha'Carri Richardson, do you have the same outrage for all the people that tried to get work at a casino in Colorado and weren't able to pass the drug test, or some other kind of job where obviously transportation, medical fields, obviously those people should never be high? I guess we can agree with that, right?
Yeah, we agree with that, but I'm still kind of confused how you can win the actual race or trial and then not make it onto the relay team. Something about the math doesn't really make sense to me on that, but either way, yeah, I mean, it's a shame it had to happen, but she shouldn't have smoked.
Yeah, it is. I kind of agree with you. You have to. You can't really just take the stance that she's 100% the victim if she knows the rules. And obviously she knows the rules. So yes, can you make the case that it's ridiculous? There might even be a little bit of a conspiracy that the drug companies don't want weed to be legal because they'd rather hand you a Valium or a Xanax when you get
or something.
A Percocet. Well, I was going to say just something kind of to take the edge off when you're a little depressed like that. So I guess, those are all good arguments, but people are conflating them with this argument, which should be, she knew the rules. She violated the rules. I have the same amount of sympathy for her as somebody else that goes to get a regular job and can't pass a drug test. It sucks. It's an antiquated system. It won't exist in a very short period of time. Certainly, I would guess by the time the next Olympics come around, Scott, this won't be a thing.
It shouldn't be. It kind of reminds me a little bit, if we're talking about athletes, of the Josh Gordon situation. Now, this has been years running, but he was playing for Seattle, which was more progressive on the weed side, as we talked about before, with the fact that Oregon and Washington kind of similar when it comes to legalizing weed at this stage. And yet, at that point, Josh Gordon still couldn't play for the NFL, and he got suspended again, despite he was taking some drugs in a state that had it legalized. At the end of the day, if you have rules you have to pass and guidelines that you have to follow and you don't follow them, then you kind of have to be punished for it. But you can make an argument, well, what if she didn't know? What if she pleads ignorance and didn't know the rules? Then that isn't an excuse, because you should know the rules if you're going to be trying out to be an Olympian.
No, I mean, you could, I didn't know anabolic steroids weren't allowed. What? No HGH?
Taxes. I have to pay taxes? Nobody told me that.
Have you ever had to take a drug test?
Yes. I've had to. I'm trying to think if it was specifically for work or not, but I did have to at some point.
Huh. I'm trying to think what you would have had to take a drug test for.
I think it was for work. Now that I
What's-
think about it, because I was going to be working with special needs kids a couple of
Oh,
summers
okay.
ago.
Okay.
So I had to take a drug test. I believe I was in.
That seems reasonable.
It definitely made a lot of sense. I passed, so I ended up getting the job. But it's kind of the same thing of an employer-employee relationship where there's a certain level of trust there, where you have to prove that you are going to follow the rules that they set out in front of you, even if you think they're stupid or not. And she didn't follow the rules.
I thought the one of the most intelligent places that tested for drugs was a casino that I went to work for, and they gave you a saliva test. So the thing about a saliva test is all drugs are out of your system as far as saliva goes within about 3 to 5 days at most. If you're a heavy weed smoker, it might be in there for 5 days, but probably not. So I think that was a great idea because if you can't give up a substance for 5 days, you're probably not going to be a very good employee. And if you can give up a substance for 5 days, obviously you've got your priorities straight. You've straightened up to take the job. It's important enough for you to make a lifestyle change, and you're able to do it. And I thought that was a great compromise. Of course, that's not how they did it. They did it because it was cheap, but the way it worked out, I thought was a pretty intelligent thing.
Yeah.
So, of course, the first casino I went to where I had to take a hair test, where they take a little swatch of your hair. They don't tell you when they're going to do it. All you know is that anything that you've done in the last 90 days is going to show up in your hair. So, good times.
Sounds a bit excessive, but I think you make an argument that the IOC could try to use the saliva test instead moving forward, because that way, even if you want to keep that type of enforcement, it would only be for a handful of days instead of taking something maybe a month before the competition.
Right. And make no mistake, most companies are drug testing for insurance reasons only.
Yeah.
They don't care. They want happy employees. They're not drug testing for alcohol. If you go home and drink to excess every night, they have no way of knowing that. So again, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of whether weed should be legal or not, but for the record, yes, it should. It's not a performance enhancer. Anybody that's ever smoked pot knows it's not a performance enhancer. That's ridiculous. But could it help with recovery a little bit to take away some of the pain? Maybe, but so does an aspirin. So
we're on the same page. It should
Yep.
be legal, but according to this actual situation, I think Richardson should have been a little bit more knowledgeable about the rules and followed them more accordingly.
Agreed. Scott, you want to tell us about Pops? What's Pops up to? Speaking of pot smokers, man, if that guy's not a pot smoker, I don't know who is.
Either way, since he's been living in Texas for that long, who knows? But
Right. Good point.
looking at Coach Pop, you might be wondering what he's up to since the Spurs got eliminated in one of the play-in games. He is with Team USA because why wouldn't he be? He's one of the best coaches of all time. Now, he ended up talking to the media, and there were a couple of repeated questions, mostly involving why is Kevin Love on the team? And we asked the same exact thing. We found out.
Yes, big fans of the show, obviously. The media.
Yeah, we found out the rosters about a week or two ago, something like that. But anyway, Popovich was really, really direct to the point. And he said that Kevin Love is going to have to work his butt off for the next 4 to 5 weeks, and that the coaching staff and the team are going to demand a lot from him. So he's going to have to basically earn his spot. Now, the question I have to ask for you is what exactly can you demand from a player and expect from a player when you're favored to win every game by about 35 points?
Effort, Scott. 100% effort all the time. That's what
Is he going to play more than like 8 minutes a game?
Absolutely not. Well, no, it's possible. The question is, how many minutes will he play with a game of a margin of less than 20?
Greg, it's a great question. I don't know how many games are going to be that are less than 20 in the fourth quarter.
So you normally say, well, he's only going to get in for garbage time. Well, you could have a half of garbage time as the USA goes up against Romania or whoever.
Romania, Angola, any of these countries, they'll win by 90.
Yeah, not good. Not good at all. So he could get some significant playing time. So
he could. I just found it a pretty interesting comment. Like Kevin Love, who's getting paid millions and millions of dollars and had a really awful regular season, and he's injured all the time. You expect him to embrace this challenge of, I got to try really hard to be a bench warmer on the Olympic team.
How many guys are on the team? 12, 14?
I believe it's 12, but for the sake of convenience, we'll say 13. We'll meet in the middle.
So I guess then what you want to tell me is that Kevin Love is one of the 13 best basketball players in the United States.
He's clearly not, but the point is, if you want to say that he has to try and earn his spot, how are you going to tell him to earn his spot when he's already earned it? You can't. What, you're going to throw him off the team halfway through the Olympic Games?
Yeah,
I don't know what the point is.
I think that's an answer that is more appropriate once you've made your first cuts down to like 20 or 30, whatever it is. Like
he made the first cut. What do you
right,
say?
Why
expect
Kevin
a lot
Love
from
there?
him.
Well, we're going to ask a lot of him if he wants to make that team. Yes,
Kevin Love is going to be on the plane, so I don't really know what the threats are supposed to be. You're not going to throw him off the team halfway through.
No, I'm sorry, Kevin. You're really
That's what I'm saying. We're on the same page. It's like Pop is going to just tell this veteran guy, listen, you're going to have to put in your end of the bargain. If you didn't think he was going to, then why'd you take him on the team?
Yeah, agreed. I don't know. I don't think that answered any questions.
Didn't answer anything. In fact, I actually have more questions.
It certainly didn't answer the question that was asked of him.
I just have more questions. Why are you expecting a professional athlete to try even harder once he's already made the team?
Yes. Well, the question is that they really wanted the answer to, why is he on the team? And you want some kind of answer like, well, he really showed something towards the end of the season. He
leadership, something.
Right. Make something up. He makes a great chili, and everybody loves chili post-game. Whatever it is, say something. Don't just say, well, he's going to have to try really hard. No, he isn't. He's already made the team. He had a whole year of not trying hard. He had a whole year of sitting on the bench going, man, my team really sucks. That looks hard out there. I don't think I'm going to play. So, yeah, agreed. At his best, at his absolute best, Scott, was he one of the top 13 players in the NBA?
The Minnesota stat lines are a little bit, I'd say, enigmatic for me. Because I just think that his stats were so good. His stats on Cleveland were anemic. But the stats on Minnesota were kind of really confusing because he put up stats like he was a top 10 player in the league, but Minnesota was just force-feeding him because those teams were terrible.
And nothing else.
Correct. So I think that you can make a case maybe when he was with Minnesota, top 15.
Okay. Yeah.
But last year,
what was that
change?
Window? 2 years ago, it was about a 2-year window.
I don't even think he's top 50 right now.
No, I agree. So we'll see. It's going to be, I'll tell you what, by the time you see Kevin Love come in, they're going to be spreading the love because they're going to have a 20-point lead. I want to see a bet. What's the lowest margin that Kevin Love enters a game? Is it over or under 15 points?
Do they bring him in for the final minute to close out the first quarter?
He's the only guy. He sits on the bench in his uniform. He gets ready to come in. He has to put coveralls on because it's garbage time.
I just think it's kind of funny imagining when Coach Pop says that he has to work harder, he just has to keep all the seats warm, and he's just sprinting on the bench trying to keep the seats warm for the actual players.
That's the kind of answer someone who is high would give. Tell me Popovich isn't high. Can you tell us why Kevin Love's on the team? Oh, dude, we're going to demand that he work his butt off in the next 4 to 5 weeks, and we are going to demand a lot out of him.
Mm-hmm.
That's a stoner answer right there.
I kind of respect how ridiculous but honest it was, if that makes any sense. That's something I would imagine Spicoli saying.
Absolutely.
I've been thinking, if you're here and I'm here, wouldn't that make this our time?
Classic. All right, Scott, let's shift gears. Let's puck it up a little bit. Owen Power, man. Who wrote that?
That's a hell of a sports name.
Is that right out of like the latest Disney sports movie? It's Owen Power, everybody. He is the projected #1 pick in the upcoming NHL draft. He's leaning towards returning to Michigan, Scott. Why would he do such a thing?
Well, he claims that it wants to improve his skills, kind of like what Cole Caulfield did when he went to Wisconsin anyway, and now he's a very, very solid player for Montreal. But we do have to wonder, since we've been talking about athletes getting paid a little bit more in college over the last week or so, does that play a factor? Do we think we'll see more prospects do it in the future? We think it's worth kind of talking about.
Are hockey players going to make anything?
If you were the projected number 1 pick in the upcoming draft, you should be able to make something. Anything.
Are you going to make the kind of money you'd make in the NHL?
No.
What are you doing?
He wants to practice and get better.
You're the number 1 pick. What are you going to be if you get better? You're going to be the number 1 pick. I don't get it. I don't get it. No, that makes no sense to me.
I don't know either. I know that in this situation,
another question that could be legitimate. Yes, I think it's possible. You'll see more players staying in school an extra year because they know they don't have to spend it broke. They're not going to make millions, but they could pick up a 5-figure paycheck, and that certainly helps. So, yes, I think to answer your question that is posed by this situation, yes, I think that's possible. I think it's possible. I think that's the reason in this. I don't see enough revenue coming from college hockey.
I don't think it's the reason either in this situation. I kind of just used it as an example to springboard our previous conversations. I just found it fascinating, just having a number 1 overall pick. I remember that was the case in football. I believe it was Jake Locker out of Washington, and he was supposed to be the number 1 overall pick. And then he decided, you know what? I'm going to go back to back to Washington and get a degree. Went back to Washington, became, I believe it was somewhere between 8 and 15 as a draft pick, and then he was terrible in Tennessee anyway, and he was out of the league in about 5 years. But I don't really know what more you can do besides maybe you just really, really like your hockey coach. I don't know, but you're projected to make a couple $1 million, not to mention the sponsorships being involved. With a name like that, with your last name being Power, you're going to walk into the NHL and probably be top 20 in jersey sales on the first day.
Yeah. Where's he going? Do we know draft order?
But you're talking about which team would he go to with the first pick?
Do we know draft order?
I am actually not even sure if the draft lottery happened yet.
Okay.
It couldn't. I don't think it happened yet. If it was, I probably would have known about it. But actually, no, it was. The Sabres got the first pick. So that's probably the better reason, because I wouldn't want to go there. Sabres are one of the most dysfunctional franchises in all sports, let alone hockey.
It's also, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, Scott, it's pretty cold there in the winter.
I did hear that somewhere. But he's also going to school in Michigan, so I don't know if weather is going to play much of a factor in that decision.
Get away from the Great Lakes, buddy. Just get away from
He saw Buffalo first pick and said, absolutely not. You know, a dorm room sounds nice the second time around.
You know, when you're staying in Michigan for the weather, you know Buffalo has some crappy weather. So
that is definitely true.
Stay tuned. We'll update you on that. And maybe we'll even have a little draft prop on the NHL, Scott.
Maybe, perhaps. I am curious if Power ends up going through with it and decides to forego the draft and go back to school. I'm curious if other prospects will follow suit, not because of just the money-making stuff, but because of a Bo Jackson Tampa Bay Buccaneers situation where nobody wants to play for the worst franchise in the sport that has killed numerous prospects, including Jack Eichel, who I believe is now suing the medical team, or he's complaining because they mistreated his neck issues.
All right.
So, yeah, I don't think people really like going to the Sabres organization.
Not good. Not good at all. You know, that was and before that, you had a situation with John Elway.
Yeah.
John Elway refused to go to the Colts.
Well, you had Elway, you had the Eli Manning situation, which actually worked out pretty well because Manning and Rivers had pretty similar careers besides the rings. But career-wise, Elway is one of the all-time examples.
It's just I'm not going to do it. I'm going to play for the. You know who he was going to play for?
I don't recall.
You know what his backup plan was?
Wasn't it baseball?
Yeah, he would play for the Yankees.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
He was a Yankees farmer.
I need you to go to the Baltimore Colts. I don't want to.
I'm feeling it.
Okay, fine. You're going to Denver. Okay. All right, I can work with that.
Much better. Much better.
Yep.
So, all right, buddy. Well, you know what? It's time for our fastest growing segment, Scott. This is the one that we get the most email about. People love it, and we're going to keep doing it.
That's old-fashioned way. We're still using email.
I think they love it just for the sound effects.
Mm-hmm.
You ready? It's time once again for Donkey of the Day.
It gets me every time, man.
Every time. A better over-under bet would be how long until I stop laughing when I hear the donkey noise. I'm going to say at least 3 more weeks.
I think it's going to keep going. It's really just perfect.
Well, Scott, do we have somebody today that fits the incredibly high bar that we've set for Donkey of the Day?
I would hit you with a trick response of yes and no, because we have something, but it's not really a person.
Not a person. Somebody. There is a person.
There are a lot of people who are probably involved in this decision, but
somebody ultimately made the decision. We don't know who it is, but somebody. It's the buck stopped somewhere. Somewhere there is a donkey who should be wearing big, long, floppy ears because what they did. Some Turner Sports executive that said, we're going to put on the match between two of the most visible athletes of our generation, Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, one of the best golfers currently still playing, Phil Mickelson, fresh off a major victory, Bryson DeChambeau, big hitter, one of the most popular guys as far as fans go in the PGA. We're going to set up this great match. We're going to have it at a beautiful course up in Big Sky, Montana. And we're going to put it on, not only are we going to put it on a Tuesday late afternoon, but it started at 6 o'clock.
It started at 5 Eastern. Oh, it's supposed to start 5 Eastern. I'd say 5:30, 5:45.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Probably kicked off right around 6 Eastern. Great time right there, by the way. But more importantly, Scott, they're going right up against game 1 of the NBA Finals.
Now, of course, the NBA Finals are starting about 3 hours later. However, I don't think anyone in the executive board for Turner Sports realized how long it takes to actually play a full round of golf. You have 4 people there, and that took about, I don't even know, 4.5 hours, 5 hours, and it would have taken longer, but it ended with 2 holes left.
Are you saying somebody at the executive level didn't know how long it took to play golf? I think
that might be the case because that's the only explanation I can have for scheduling it to go up against the NBA Finals.
I've got another one. I have another one. Perhaps it was a tweak by TNT because they don't have the finals. They've had the playoffs. They haven't had the finals. Those went to ESPN. So is it a TNT thumbing their nose at ESPN and trying to cut into those ratings a little bit?
I think you can make an argument maybe, but I don't really know how many people would have been choosing the end of a blowout golf match, which they couldn't have known at the time. I thought it was going to be competitive. But either way, are you picking the golf match or are you picking the NBA Finals? Of course, you're picking the NBA Finals. So you can make an argument that TNT tried to scramble at the last minute and try to get we cut into some of your ratings, but I don't understand the time there. You know what people are more likely to not watch? The Stanley Cup Finals with a team from Canada in it. So maybe you should have made it Wednesday.
Can I ask an obvious question? What's wrong with Saturday or Sunday?
There's really nothing wrong with it. You got baseball on. That's it.
I mean, I guess you do it on a Tuesday during the golf season. I guess that's the trade-off, that these guys are going to be playing tournaments over the weekend, right? I guess that's the deal.
I guess that is. I know you have the Olympics coming up, so I'm not sure if Mickelson and DeChambeau would take one for the team, so to speak, and just skip a weekend and play golf for 1 day instead of 4. I think that's an option, but either way, just do it on a day where you don't have the NBA Finals on.
Yeah.
I mean, the Stanley Cup Finals might be over in like a day or 2. You can just wait and try to combat hockey, because I don't know what the ratings comparisons are between the NBA and the NHL, especially in America for the main audience here. What percentage do you think the NBA has of just higher ratings? Like more than twice the amount the Stanley Cup gets? More than 5 times?
I think, yes, I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of 4x.
So I get that you wanted to start it on a weekday. You really had to wait till 5 or 6?
How about Monday the 5th, Scott, when everybody was off?
That's an option too.
How about that? How about you have it in the afternoon of a day when a lot of people had the 3-day weekend with the 4th landing on Sunday?
Now, the thing about the match, I like the idea. I like the premise of just having these athletes and some actual golfers and they'll play. I think it's a fun concept. But the scheduling there, if you want to watch the first 8 holes and then change the channel, great, because that's basically what you were able to do. I don't think TNT planned on everyone abandoning ship halfway through the actual event.
I'd love to see their quarter hour numbers. I really would.
I'm assuming they were disastrous
Like
right around the first quarter of the NBA final starting.
That'd be my guess. All right, Scott. That's a pretty good donk of the day right there. So, moving back to Tampa Bay for the NHL Game 5 of the NHL Finals, Stanley Cup Finals, I guess we say. Lightning, as we suspected, Scott, gigantic favorites here. We underestimated how much that Montreal ticket would pay for 4 straight wins, because they are currently sitting around minus 220, minus 225, starting to creep in there for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Scott, at the risk of a bad pun, is there any danger of Lightning striking twice and having the Canadiens picking up another win here?
Oh, I thought you meant in the area because there might be a tropical storm going on outside. But either way, Tampa is clearly the better team. We know that Montreal ended up winning the thrilling overtime game in Game 4 to avoid getting swept. Did Tampa hit the post a couple of times? Yeah. Did they blow a 4-minute power play right before the goal? Yeah. But that's part of the game. And Montreal ended up surviving, and Anderson had the very nice goal in overtime. However, I'm rooting for Montreal. I'm just going to say it. I can't not continue to make fun of the mayor, who just went out of her way to put herself on one of the all-time jinx boards, if there ever was one. It's an all-timer if they end up blowing this. So I'm rooting for Montreal. Do I think Montreal is going to win? No, but I do think it'll be very close. I was pretty accurate with my thoughts on Game 4. I thought it was going to be 3-2 Tampa. 10-1, so close yet so far. But either way, I thought Montreal was going to play better defensively. I thought they were going to pick it up physically, and they did. They tried to go out of their way to kind of emulate the Islanders a little bit and try to push around some of the stronger star players for Tampa and just take it to them physically. I think it's going to be a close game. I don't really know if you agree with me that the game might go to overtime. I think there might be value to it. I think that Montreal has kind of found a blueprint, maybe not to necessarily win 4 in a row, but at least remain competitive and remain in the building.
What is it? What is that blueprint?
The blueprint for me is to kind of do what the Islanders do. Sacrifice getting outshot, 4 shots from the actual perimeter or from the actual point, and in between shots and face-offs and everything, find somebody and hit somebody. I feel like that's kind of the approach Montreal's doing because they decided to be more physical, and that seemed to wear down Tampa as the game went on. I think they'll stick to it. Is it going to work for a full, remainder of the series? No. But I do think there's value on Montreal plus 1.5 at around minus 150, which I know sounds like juice, but I do think there's value there. I do think overtime might be worth a bit of a sniff if you think that this game's going to be competitive. Overtime's plus 330. I think there's value on that.
It is a good price. That is a good price on overtime. A lot of times you see that in the high 2s. But with a game that's capped that way, where it's supposedly so lopsided, then overtime obviously is going to be a taller price. Yeah, I don't hate that. I've been absolutely wrong on this series. I've expected Tampa Bay, to close it out last game. I thought Montreal would give them something in Game 3. So I've been a little chilly here on this series. So I'll make an official pick. I don't like laying the juice. I don't think there's any value on taking Tampa Bay, although I do think Tampa Bay wins this one.
You can get them in regulation at minus 140 if you want it.
I think that's going to be the play for me. Take the three-way on that and lay minus 140.
I don't know if you see my angle there, but I do think the value on overtime and plus 1.5. I think it's going to be a close game.
I don't like the plus 1.5. I'd rather roll the dice on overtime. I don't like laying 2 to 3.
I kind of just meant if you're too afraid to take the overtime, plus 1.5's a decent alternative.
Too many bad things happen in the last 2 minutes of hockey games, buddy.
That is definitely true.
You watch the puck line go to the suck line all of a sudden. So.
I did enjoy that Montreal finally switched up some of the lines. They got Romanov in there, who probably should have been playing earlier in the series, and he ended up scoring in his Stanley Cup debut in the last game. So I do kind of like that Montreal's been tinkering with the lines, trying to throw in some new bodies in there. I think they took too long, but better late than never, I suppose.
Well, we're down 3-0. Time to make some adjustments.
Yeah, it worked. I mean, they won a game, but I would have probably pulled it at 2-0.
Yeah, agreed. So, Scott, we did have basketball last night. We had Giannis, to the surprise of quite a few people, especially when you and I talked earlier. Had been downgraded to doubtful. That's usually not a good sign. As you go from questionable to doubtful, you're headed the wrong direction.
It means you probably should doubt he's going to play.
It means you should doubt he is going to play. And then, lo and behold, yesterday, Scott, you started seeing the tweets come in that Giannis had been upgraded to questionable from doubtful. And at that point, I had no doubt in my mind that he was going to play this game. I know you still didn't believe it. You thought that the Booge was giving us a little bit of the old okey doke there.
I think it was a bit of gamesmanship.
But it was not.
It was not. Now, Giannis...
I think listing him as doubtful was gamesmanship.
Yeah. Now, Giannis ended up looking, I'd say, better than I thought he was going to, because he actually was able to move around a bit. He had that really impressive chase. Yeah, the really impressive chase down block on Mikal Bridges to end the first half. So he did have some athleticism left. However, as the game went on, you could just tell that he was becoming less and less of a factor as the game went on. And defensively, didn't really do much. However, he was the only starter on the Bucks who was a plus in the plus-minus department. Had 20 and 17. So numbers-wise, he was okay, I suppose. But only attempting 11 shots means that Giannis clearly wasn't himself out there. He wasn't bad by just final stat lines, even though 20 points is definitely not that impressive for his standards. But as a whole, we both thought that Milwaukee had a good chance to keep it close without Giannis. When I heard Giannis was going to play, I thought Phoenix was going to roll, and they ended up rolling.
I think he looked slow on defense, and he didn't have that burst to the basket like he is his trademark.
And he can't shoot free throws. So if he's not going to be able to dunk and use the explosiveness to at least finish at the rim,
right?
Phoenix is going to take their chances of him making both at any given trip to the line, and he went 7 of 12.
Well, and we talked about Ayton. Ayton is a guy that handled Anthony Davis. He handled Jokic all right, and he handled whatever big men du jour that the Clippers.
Zubac question mark.
Right. So I'm not surprised, and he's done well against Giannis in the past. I'm not surprised that Ayton and I think at full strength, I think Ayton gives Giannis everything he wants.
Yeah, I think the main takeaway for the game, which is why I did think Phoenix would win, was the fact that with Giannis and Lopez playing at the same time, I just thought the pick and roll was going to kill this team. And Lopez especially. We talked in the last series about how Trae Young could just do whatever he wanted in game one against Lopez on the pick and roll, and then they kind of adjusted accordingly for Milwaukee. But is there anybody better in your lifetime besides maybe John Stockton when it comes to just abusing a pick and roll than Chris Paul?
No, probably not. It seems like he's made an entire career of that.
And Lopez was unplayable for the entire game because every possession, it was Chris Paul or it was Devin Booker, and suddenly, hey, I got Brook Lopez on me one-on-one, and they just blew past him every single time.
Well, they had him early in the series last time. They had Lopez in that drop coverage, and they tightened up the drop. They brought him closer to the perimeter, and it worked a little bit against Atlanta. It did not work against a team that has as many good guards as the Suns.
The point is that when you are going to be running two big men out there with Giannis, who's compromised, who can't move as well as he's used to running, and you have Lopez out there, you can't use both at the same time against Phoenix. They're going to spread you out, and they're going to kill you in the pick and roll.
Can't do it at all, and that's what they tried to do. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't a pretty game for Milwaukee. You and I talked about it that if both of these teams are at full strength, we still don't like Milwaukee, and that's
Drew Holiday, not good.
Well, he's your guy for defense. And
I'm just saying, though, 4 for 14. I know he almost had a triple-double because he finished with 10, 9, and 7. 4 for 14, man. Why did you become Eric Bledsoe?
Well, he's not – his scoring is not his deal.
It wasn't the regular season to some degree, but I think you can agree that he has so much confidence for a guy who should have nowhere near that much confidence. Which you kind of respect, but at some point you got to tell him, listen, you should never shoot the ball ever.
Yeah, 0 for 4 from 3, 4 for 14 from from the field.
And they're not good shots. He's just chucking them with like 15 on the shot clock.
Yeah.
I thought Middleton played well, though.
Middleton did play well. Middleton put up 29. That's kind of the kind of effort you had to have from Middleton, but you had to have 25, 30 from somebody else too, or you had to spread some love around off the bench. They played short bench. They only played 4 bench players.
Just saying, I know Middleton went for 29. You said 30 something from somebody else. Giannis ends up giving you the normal 30 and change.
Yeah.
They don't lose by 13. So.
If Giannis scores his 32, 34, like he's been doing pretty much the entire postseason, it's an entirely different game.
We're not blaming Giannis because we know that he's extremely compromised. But the point is, with him being less than 100%, somebody else has got to step up. And Middleton tried. Holiday's got to be better.
Yeah, I always want everybody to be clear that we are in no way ever demeaning a player who goes out there and tries to play injured, an injury where most people would probably be laid up on the couch. He's out there playing basketball at the highest level or attempting to do it. So we're certainly.
Point is, his teammates have to realize if Giannis can't get us the normal 30 and 15, I got to do more. And Drew Holiday, if you're going to let Chris Paul and Booker torch you the entire game and you can't shoot, what exactly are you doing for the team?
Yeah. Giannis was the only guy and the only starter that was in plus territory. He was +1 for the 35 minutes that he was on the floor.
Yep.
I was surprised they played him that much down the stretch when that was a double-digit lead pretty much the entire second half.
They're getting killed in the fourth, and I don't know.
That surprised you that he's still in there with a minute to go, a minute and a half to go. Why are you doing that to Giannis?
I didn't get it. Now, Milwaukee, I think, cut it to 9 or maybe even 8 once or twice, but then Phoenix would immediately score after. At some point, you got to realize the odds of you winning that game are slim. I know the game's unofficially over, but it's a marathon, not a sprint. And if you were shocked Giannis even played in game 1, you probably shouldn't roll the dice with him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You got to get him some time on the bench. He played 35 minutes tonight. Did you think he'd play that long if he played?
I really thought that he sat too long in the third quarter and then played too long in the fourth quarter. Because they pulled him about, I'd say, halfway through the third, and then Chris Paul took over the game. And suddenly it was like, Suns are up 6. And then you look back, it's like, Giannis about to check in. Suns are up 20. I'm like, I feel like you should have brought him in at some point sooner. And then the fourth quarter came around, and they were just like, oh, Giannis still on the court. They're still down 15, but Giannis is trying. I'm like, maybe you should just realize we got game 2 coming up in a day or 2.
Yeah, it seemed like they were just running that pick and roll, just waiting for the matchup they wanted, and they'd get Chris Paul and Brook Lopez, and he'd either blast past him, or he'd fake with the jab step. Lopez would bite, and he'd step back and just nail it.
I don't think Portis was that good either defensively, but I thought he was better than Lopez on the pick and rolls. There's no good answer besides going small and trying to use Giannis at the 5, I suppose. But if you're going to keep throwing Lopez out there, the Suns will definitely abuse the pick and roll against him every single time.
Yep. Yeah, and Lopez, to their credit, Lopez did only get 23 minutes in. So they realized pretty quick that Lopez was not going to be a help in this one.
I'm just saying, when you have 17 points and you're still a negative 17 in plus minus,
not good.
That's a problem.
That is an absolute problem. So you think this is a kind of a harbinger of things to come? Can Milwaukee get it even?
It really all comes down to Giannis' status moving forward. Now, based on how Milwaukee's played in the previous series, they are never good in game 1. Against Miami, that game went to overtime. That was the only close game in the entire matchup. Got killed against the Nets. Lost at home against Atlanta in game 1. So they usually make some adjustments for game 2. The question is, do I think Milwaukee can beat Phoenix in Phoenix? And I don't think they can. Especially with Giannis, who, even if he's going to be playing, should still be well below 100% for the rest of the series. I think if he was at 100%, I might take Milwaukee to pull one off and win in 6. But with Giannis being best case scenario, 75%, 80% maybe, I don't see them winning in Phoenix.
Does Milwaukee keep the Suns from scoring under 115 points?
That's the problem, is that they're going to have to put Giannis at the 5, and they're going to have to go small. And I don't know if they can, because Phoenix is better at going small, and Ayton's going to kill whoever's guarding him in the middle.
Yep, that's exactly right. They can run a 4-1 with Ayton in there and still just absolutely blow it up.
You need Drew Holiday to go for about 22 plus moving forward if you want to win the series, but I don't see that happening. I think as long as
In the
Chris
other
Paul,
in the games that are left, yes, it's possible he may get 22 in the games that are left.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maybe combined.
Oh, you
But
mean all at once in one game? Oh yeah, no, that's not
oh
gonna
yeah, no, maybe combined. But the point I'm trying to say is Milwaukee's very good at defending their home court. On the road, not so much. But I do think that Phoenix, with Paul and Booker not turning the ball over and just being very, very smart with the ball, I think Milwaukee's is going to have a pretty hard time in Game 2 as well.
Suns in 5.
I'm rooting for Suns in 4 because I love that damn guy, but I don't think that's going to happen.
You love what?
The Suns in 4 guy, the fan who used to always go around going Suns in 4.
Nope.
How did you miss that whole boat? That was a huge media thing for like a week.
A whole week?
Yeah, a Suns fan got into an argument with like some Nuggets fans because they like poured beer on him, and he turned around and just went Suns in 4. And he said that like Game 2, I think, and they ended up winning in 4.
Was that the one where they had the big fight?
Yeah.
Oh, I did see the fight.
Well, there were a couple of fights there, but yes.
Probably had the sound down.
Suns in 4. No, but realistically, I had Suns in 7 before the series. I'll go Suns in 6.
Yeah, I think the only chance that this has of going 7 games is if they play best of 13.
I really don't think Giannis should have played yesterday. I know that he put up pretty good numbers in the end, but long term, they might have just been better off trying to punt Game 1. What do you think?
Right. So we've got a lot of baseball action today, Scott. Unfortunately, it's getaway day, so a lot of it is going to be played before we air in most of our markets.
But how much time do we have to talk about the card today?
Well, Scott, kind of right in the middle. We've got about 6 minutes to talk about the baseball card.
Okay.
Can we start off with the Seattle Mariners All-Star representative, Scott?
You kind of have to. He's one of your personal favorites.
One of my personal favorites, you see, Kikuchi is an all-star, everybody, and he is in action today. That means, Scott, he's going to be lined up to get the start for the all-star game.
I'm sure that's who the AL's waiting to throw out there.
The Cooch is going up against Domingo Germán for the Yankees. Scott, Yankees looked pretty good yesterday. They turned it around.
1 day at a time.
Huh?
1 day at a time.
Yankees laying a small number here. There's been Yankees money coming in a little bit. You like the Cooch here?
I think it makes sense. Germán's been terrible. The last couple of starts, he's really just been an up and down guy all year long. Kikuchi has been very good lately, so I'll give him props, but damn, Seattle offensively has kind of been, well, what's the word I'm looking for? Not great. Lately, they've been okay, kind of hit or miss, but I don't really think that this offense wows me too much, but you're kind of hoping Germán's struggling will balance it out. I don't really have much of a thought on this game, honestly. I think it's pretty much where it should be. It's either Kikuchi first 5 or pass. I don't want the full game, though. Yankees bullpen, assuming Chapman's not going to pitch, has been pretty good.
Do you know, Scott, who has scored more runs than the Yankees?
I'm assuming it's the Mariners.
Well, it's a trick question, Scott, because it's
a lot of teams.
It's really everyone in the American League.
That sounds about right.
I started off because it was going to be the Mariners, but then as the more I'm looking at the numbers, it's everybody. The Yankees have scored the least amount of runs in the American League.
Great stuff. Yikes.
Now, Seattle, it looks like they are third worst. Yes, they're right there.
There are a couple of games I like more than this one, but it's either Kikuchi or pass.
Kikuchi or pass. That's exactly right. That is the correct answer. What do you like better?
Well, I'm looking at the Phillies taking on the Cubs. You have Wheeler going up against Mills, and I got to look at Wheeler. He's around minus 135, and Chicago, we know, is bad. However, I don't think enough people have realized just how bad they actually are, because the Cubs, once again, gave up 15 runs yesterday, lost again, and now they've lost 11 in a row. This team stinks. And we think they're about to blow it up, and I don't think it's going to turn around much sooner. Plus, Ross might get fired because this team is really just in free fall. Wheeler's very good. Mills had the one no-hitter, which I'm sure a lot of people forgot about already a couple years ago, but he's been okay at best. I'm going with the Phillies. This line should be a lot higher.
Wheeler has been nuts. He has given up no runs in 4 of his last 5 starts, Scott.
He's minus 135 against a team that's lost 11 in a row.
I don't know.
Looks a little fishy.
Are we running into this gambler's fallacy with the Cubs now because they've lost 11 straight? Is it their due?
I'm not. I just said I like Philly.
No, but I'm saying, is that why the price is so low? Because
I have
obviously
to assume so.
it's Wheeler on the mound, man.
They're looking at the Cubs and going, well, they're 26-15 at home, and I say that's great. They're 0-11 in their last 11.
Right.
So I'm gonna trust that information more. Philly's been pretty good lately, at least hitting the ball. They still can't pitch for the bullpen perspective, but the Cubs bullpen's been terrible lately too. I'll go with Philly because Wheeler has been nails, as you said before.
Well, yeah, absolutely. He has been fantastic, and he's going deep into games. I think there's a good chance you get 7 out of Wheeler, limits the exposure of that pen.
Yep.
Mills has been pretty good too, but this is I think any other season, if you don't have DeGrom, I think we're talking a lot about Zach Wheeler and where he stands as far as Cy Young odds, because
He's very, very good.
yeah, he's been 205 ERA. He's been just fantastic on the year. So yeah, for me, it's got to be Phillies. Keep the misery going there. In Chicago now, it's worth noting that the wind is turning around. Going to be a slight breeze, about 7-8 miles an hour game time coming in from center, so it will be blowing in their face. But anything else?
Looking around the card, trying to remember about all the daytime games that we obviously can't talk about.
Right.
Looking at the rest of the card, I am going to look at the Rockies and Diamondbacks over.
Okay.
I know that we seem to get a lot of high-scoring games when these two teams get together. Sanzatella, not good, 2-7 record, and the ERA is not good either. Castellanos has been okay, but he's only pitched about 11 innings. So I think there's a good chance both of them are going to struggle. It is about 111 degrees in the desert, so oof. That sounds painful, but either way.
They're not playing outside, but still.
You know what I mean. A little bit of desert heat there. I like the over. I just think both teams are going to struggle pitching. We know the bullpens are terrible. I think there's a good chance that both these teams can score at least 6 runs. I see this game turning into a huge, huge shootout. You?
All right, yeah, very good. For me, I agree. It's now time, Scott, for the one and only. It is the favorite segment of the show, even more popular than the Donkey of the Day. Scott, this is where you and I put our heads together, try to come up with a winning play, the one play we like above all others. If you had to put it all on one, this is it. Put on your straw hats, climb on that tractor. It is time for Bet the Farm. Had to get the cattle prod out there for a minute. Bessie's a little slow. Scott, how'd we do yesterday? What'd we have?
We had the Reds' first 5, so we avoided the bad beat, and we got ourselves a nice, easy winner.
Geniuses, that's what we were. All right, very good. So let's fire it up for today, Scott. Climb on board, folks. Get that piece of straw in your mouth because we're about ready to lay out the farm play. We're going to take a look at the Nationals and the Padres. We're going to play the first 5 over 4.5. We think this is a fantastic play. Pat Corbin goes for the Nats. He's been stinky-osity all season long. He's been one of our favorite fades, 5.56 ERA, 1.40 whip, and even worse on the road, 6.56 ERA on the highway. Chris Paddock pitching for the Padres. You know how old I am? I remember when Chris Paddock didn't suck. 4.56 ERA, 1.23 whip. He is worse at home, 5.29 ERA in the friendly confines. Padres, they hit much better against lefties, and the Nats, they are much better on the road as far as offensively goes. Each of the first 2 games of this series had at least 9 runs prior to the 6th inning. The Nats, they have allowed at least 5 runs in 7 straight, Scott. 7 straight. We like the Nats, Padres. First 5 over 4.5 for Bet the Farm.
At the end of the day, we think there's a couple ways to win this. If one of the 2 pitchers blows up, you should easily cash this. There's a good chance both of them are going to blow up.
Yep, and that's going to do it for today, guys. Get out there, get your farm play going. Thanks for listening, as always, for me, for Scott, for all of us over here. You guys take care. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors. We do it every day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow on Winners and Winers Radio. Take care, everybody.